Welcome back, my Blasphemous buddies. This month, we are diving into meal planning and prepping to help you continue to be consistent in your health and wellness goals. Before we start, I want to say thank you again to those who have left reviews on iTunes. I especially want to give a shout out today to Smokin' Tacos, who had this to say. Aimee is amazing. I've been following her numerous nutrition news nuggets for nigh on 19 years. Just kidding, it's only been 15, but I couldn't stop with the alliterations. She is truly a wealth of health knowledge and has served up a side of sass and suggestions for health improvement and maintenance that were powerful, productive, and practical. She is also supportive and non-judgmental in helping people make changes that last. And is that what we want? Support and change that we can maintain. Cannot speak highly enough of this well-being wonderkind. Oh, there I go again. Well, Aimee just makes me happy. Thank you, Aimee. Well, thank you, Smoking Tacos. And Smokin' Tacos, you are going to love today's episode because we are talking a lot about tacos. Let's waste no time and get started. Hey, Rebels. Welcome to Blasphemous Nutrition. Consider this podcast your pantry full of clarity, perspective, and the nuance needed to counter the superficial health advice so freely given on the internet. I'm Aimee, the unapologetically candid host of Blasphemous Nutrition and a double-degreed nutritionist with 20 years experience. I'm here to share a more nuanced take on living and eating well to sustain and recover your health. If you've found most health advice to be so generic as to be meaningless, or so extreme that it's unrealistic, and you don't mind the occasional F-bomb, you've come to the right place. From dissecting the latest nutrition trends to breaking down published research and sharing my own clinical experiences, I'm on a mission to foster clarity amidst all the confusion and empower you to have the health you need to live a life you love. Now let's get started. Kathy Davis is a plant-based lifestyle and mindset coach. She is a meal planning expert and the CEO of Veg Inspired, as well as the author of 3 cookbooks: the 30-Minute Whole Food Plant-Based Cookbook, the Super Easy Plant-Based Cookbook, and the Budget-Friendly Plant-Based Cookbook. She's also co-author of a personal development book, Absolute Vision. Kathy is here as part of her mission to educate and inspire and empower others to living and thriving through meal planning, not meal prep. And we're going to get to that let's just get to that right now. Welcome so much, Kathy, to Blasphemous Nutrition.
Hello, Aimee. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. And yep, you said it, meal plan over meal prep. And that is one of the questions that I get. And it's really funny because I'll come on a podcast and people will say, so tell us about meal prepping. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a meal planner. That doesn't mean that I don't prep ingredients. It just means that I really believe when we create the blueprint, the map essentially of where we're going to go with our foods, in alignment to our lifestyle, our schedules, our dietary preferences. It allows us to prepare ingredients in a more efficient and orderly way. Now, why am I meal plan over meal prep? We might get into this, but I'll just bring it out right now in the first few minutes. I travel the United States full-time in an RV, and I don't want to spend 6 hours on a weekend when I could be out exploring a national park prepping rice and veggies. So for me, I take a look at my whole lifestyle in general and I say, okay, what's going to work the best for me? And as you all heard, listeners, I'm a 3-time cookbook author. I love to be in the kitchen. I see it as a source of therapy, almost relief, this creativity outlet. But that might not be you. And so for me, it allows me to create a plan, even though I have busy days where I don't always get in the kitchen, and I can still eat the foods that align with my lifestyle goals, that allow me to thrive, that allow me to have the energy to explore all these national parks and live this lifestyle. And so that's why I meal plan over meal prep, because I really believe that it's based on your lifestyle. And we'll get into that with our framework and that as we move forward. But
awesome.
Don't turn this off because you're like, wait, I don't want a meal plan. Keep listening, because I swear when you're done, you'll be like, this is brilliant.
Awesome. I'm super excited. And I mean, that's a really you're in a really unique place because you're living in an RV and those are tiny refrigerators and you eat predominantly a whole food. Oh, is it, do you have a special setup where you've got as they call it here in Europe, an American
We have
refrigerator
an
in your RV?
American RV, so it's an American refrigerator. It's pretty big compared to what most people think. Like we're not living in a van. We have a 35-foot fifth wheel. It attaches into the bed of the truck. Like we have a pretty decent sized kitchen. But I do eat predominantly whole fresh foods, whole
Mhm.
plant foods, which require refrigeration
Right.
and storage and all of, proper storage to keep the foods as fresh as they can be. And we do travel to remote areas, so we're often stocking up on the organic veggies before we head off into the small town grocery areas.
Okay, so with like you, I imagine run into a lot of situations where accessibility and convenience are just not there for you, right?
Correct. And you know, I I've been I've been vegan for almost 10 years. And the first 5 years, I relied pretty heavily on the vegan convenience foods,
Hmm.
the store bought products, the processed foods. And when I made the switch to more whole foods, I was worried because here we are traveling. We don't always have access to, your big grocery stores, but I actually found it easier to eat whole food plant based when we travel to small towns because they have the whole foods, not Whole Foods, the market, but like they have the foods that
Right.
are as close to nature intended. They have the vegetables, they have the fruit, they have the oats, they have the beans, they have the foods that we eat predominantly. I'm not looking for the processed foods and things of that nature. And so it's actually been much easier to eat whole food plant based in these smaller towns. Now, they don't always have ample organic foods, but
Right.
they have vegetables. I can eat broccoli, I can find salad greens, I can eat brown rice and beans and those foods that I predominantly eat.
That's great. So you alluded to this framework that you use for meal planning. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So it's a four-part framework and it really kind of flows in a circle because once you get into the framework, it becomes a a part of you. It becomes something that you just continue to do. It starts out with what I call your inspiration list. And a lot of people, let me back up. A lot of people sit down to meal plan and they have this vision of what it looks like. And I'm here to break that vision. I'm here to like put a little bit of a monkey wrench in the way you might be meal planning and give you some relief to it doesn't have to look that way. Typically, and even me when I started, I would sit down to meal plan and I would grab every cookbook off of my shelf and I would open it up and guess what? Every cookbook starts with breakfast. And who needs to plan breakfast? Like 9 times out of 10, breakfast is planned or it's a granola bar on the way out the door, right? Which is not necessarily the best breakfast. I'm not here to speak on what the best foods to eat, but I want to paint the picture of reality. We sit
Yeah.
down, we clear the kitchen table off, we get our meal plan, our template, we get our cookbooks, and we start with breakfast. And 3 hours later, we're just getting to lunches. And we're like, I can't meal plan. This doesn't work. And so, what I teach you to gather inspiration while you're living. You drive past a billboard and there's tacos on it, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll do tacos this week. You're scrolling through Instagram and you see a recipe for a curry and you save it and you message yourself. Don't forget to add curry to your meal plan, right? Like you create
Oh,
this
yeah.
order around inspiration so that you're not sitting in front of your blank meal plan with writer's block. You're sitting there with this list of ideas that you felt all week long were good. Maybe your partner says to you, hey, let's do burgers. Maybe your kids are like, ooh, you know what sounds really good? Waffles. And you're like, ooh, I could do breakfast for dinner, right? Like you're gathering inspiration while you're living. Now, maybe you've got a brand new cookbook you want to look at, or maybe you get a meal plan from somebody, right? I'm really about teaching you to meal plan, not about selling you a meal plan. But
Mhm.
maybe you get a meal plan from somebody and you're like, okay, you're sitting in the carpool line and you're looking through the different recipes or you're looking through the cookbook and you're flagging it and you're creating this list. That's step one, inspiration from living your life. Step two, we actually sit down and we write the plan. And I do have a free gift. It's a template. It's the template that I've used for the last like 7 to 8 years of meal planning. It's been revised a little bit to add in some of the pieces that I'm going to talk about. The inspiration list is one of them. You sit down with your template and your inspiration list and you plan. But here's the veg inspired way. You also bring your calendar, because I don't know about all of you, but I run two businesses. I travel full time. So like imagine being on vacation all the time. And I know it sounds glamorous, but I want you to also remember to think about what it's like to plan a vacation, because
Mhm.
sometimes that can be overwhelming. And when that's your life, it's just another ball that you have in the air. So you might not be traveling the United States, but you've got kids going to different events. You've got, family doing things. You've got, time out with your friends, whatever it is, you've got things on your calendar. So we're going to take a look at those before we plan, because brunch with the girls is going to throw a monkey wrench in making breakfast for the kids. An after work meeting or a staff meeting that runs late might interfere with making dinner. Being, maybe you are a single parent, or some nights of the week your spouse or partner works late and so you're by yourself, right? Like your calendar can dictate, oh, I have time for this meal, or I don't have time for this meal. What can I do instead? So, as I said before, I'm not totally against meal prepping, because you might decide that Tuesdays are a struggle, they're a crunch time. So, you prep some food Monday so that you have an easy dinner on Tuesday. But
Right.
you have a plan in place to do that. So, that's steps one and steps two.
Awesome. I really love this idea of letting yourself be inspired by what's around you, because that then gives you a little bit to look forward to, because it's internally sourced excitement, not downloading a meal plan or getting one in your inbox and being like, okay, what are we having this week? That's super fun. I really like that idea, and messaging it to yourself, because I can't tell you how long the list of recipes is in my Instagram saved folder, because I never open it up.
Because that's not where we go when we meal plan. We have this vision that we sit down with all our cookbooks, and
Right.
that's the thing. And one of the biggest pieces that I always teach my clients, so those of you listening, what Aimee just said is spot on. You want meals on your meal plan that you want to make. It's
Yeah.
a long, you picture it. You get into the kitchen, it's been a long day. Everybody's hungry. The dog, the cats, the family, the kids, whatever, whoever's there that you're cooking for, yourself. Maybe you're even hangry, and you look at your meal plan and you want to be like, yes, it's taco night, not, oh my gosh, I have to make this curry and I don't even know what it means to sweat something, and now I've got to cook it for 6 hours and I didn't even know that it was a 6 hour, like I should have started at breakfast time. Like what? We know, we've all been
I've
there.
done that. I've done that, like, oh crap, this was supposed to be a slow cooker thing. Yep.
So
And
putting
then
those meals that really excite you on your meal plan is a key in the way that we teach meal planning.
great. So that's 2 out of 4, yeah?
Yep. So step number three, you post it to the fridge or someplace you're going to look, and you actually carry it out. This is where, because here's the thing, we've all done it, right? We have these great intentions. We write this plan. We have this cute little meal plan notebook. And guess what? The plan goes in the notebook. The notebook gets shuffled off the table with all the other stuff at dinner time. And then we walk in the kitchen that night and we're like, wait, what's for dinner? Where's that meal plan? Oh, forget it. We'll just get takeout, right? Like
Right.
we've all deviated from the plan. We have the best intentions. And so we want to encourage you to follow it through as part of this framework. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, she's implying that we have to have a new meal every night and this is going to be so much work and all that stuff. I can teach you to meal plan in under 15 minutes when you have that inspiration list, because you're already excited about those meals. You've already indicated that you want to make them. So now we're just plugging them in. And one night you might be like, hey, I'm going to do burrito bowls and it's going to be rice and beans and guac and salsa, and all that stuff can be bought from the grocery store except the rice, which could be put in your rice cooker that's going to be delayed and it's all ready when you get home, right? Like you can make this happen very fast. And maybe the next night you've got a short window of time, so you whip up a quick fried rice with that leftover rice from the night before, right? Like your meal plan doesn't have to be, I need to cook 7 different meals every single night of the week in order to create like this amazing meal plan. It can literally be, I'm double batching the rice on Monday so I can make fried rice on Tuesday, and I'm just going to buy the fried rice veggies from the grocery store to whip it all together and throw in some soy sauce and some other flavors to give it what, that flavor that I'm looking for.
What are some of
So
your favorite things to double batch?
Ooh, so we make big batches of rice. And
Hmm.
what we usually do is we usually do burrito bowls. And then as we get closer to the end, we either um, make a fried rice. The downside to fried rice, it's always my favorite example, but mushrooms are a very perishable
Mm.
ingredient. And so having an idea of when you're going to use them or buying the frozen mushrooms, which again, in our travels, we don't always get access to frozen mushrooms, but Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, they have frozen mushroom medleys that you can use for that. We also will freeze 1 cup of rice in portions for a plant based meat ball that we make. And so, whenever we get to the end of the week, if we have rice that needs to be used or needs to be tossed, we'll actually freeze it in 1 cup portions because the rice goes into those veggie balls. So,
Nice.
that's one of the ways that we do that. And then I usually plan veggie balls for like every other Sunday. Your Italian Sunday dinner. We're making sauce, we've got veggie balls, we've got some pasta or some whole grains, and we're just making these bowls. Burrito bowls are one of my favorite things to suggest as a simple meal because it's literally whatever grain you're cooking, quinoa, rice, another whole grain, millet, sorghum, whatever you want to eat, gluten free, not gluten free, whatever it is. And then you can open a can of beans. You
Hmm.
can buy fresh salsa from the grocery store. You can buy shredded cabbage or shredded lettuce or, lettuce in the plastic clamshell. You can buy store-bought guacamole. I mean, it's one of those meals that can come together so fast
Yeah.
without you having to really do a lot. If you eat meat, you could buy a rotisserie chicken and shred
Yep.
that onto the bowl, right? Like it's there's so many options, and that's why I like burrito bowls. Some other things that we batch bags of potatoes. So we'll boil, a 5 pound bag of yellow or red potatoes, and then we'll eat them, smashed one night with a big salad, or we'll make these armadillo potatoes where you dip them in. These are a little bit more, this is a little bit more time consuming, but you hassle back the potato and you dip it in a Cajun hummus and then you bake it. And so the hummus creates this crust. It's a recipe from Rip Esselstyn's cookbook, Plant Strong, but it's so good. And it pairs really well with a salad, right? Salad with some chickpeas. You've got your starch, you've got your protein, you've got your veggies. I mean, it really gives these easy kind of meals. And if you boil the potatoes, then they're partially cooked so they won't have to bake as long. So
Got
just
it.
thinking of things like that, that's typically what we do. Some other things that we prep for is we'll prep for or we'll plan for like veggie wraps, hummus veggie wraps, and so we'll prep the vegetables. So we make a homemade oil-free hummus because we're whole food plant-based, so we don't eat oil either. And then we shred carrots, we shred beets, we have greens available, we cut bell peppers, we might have olives on hand, and so we'll just throw that all in a tortilla and wrap it up, and that's lunch. So I might make it in the moment for my lunch so it's not soggy, but
Hmm.
all the other like salad bar ingredients are ready to go. And so those
Nice.
are some ways that we kind of plan and prepare our ingredients so that again, I'm not against meal prepping. I'm just really focused on how can I do it most efficiently and create the most order and not spend 6 hours when I want to be hiking in a national park prepping all my meals.
Yeah. Most people don't have the time or the desire to spend the little time that they have in the kitchen prepping for the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I cut you off. You're finishing up your 4-part planning strategy.
Absolutely. So we have our inspirations, then we
Mhm.
sit down and we carry out the plan with our calendar, our inspiration list, and our template, or we write the plan, then we carry it out. And the last step is reflection. Now, this can be done during the week. Whoa, that meal was so easy. Put 5 stars next to it. We're definitely going to keep this in the rotation. This meal said it was 30 minutes, but it took me 2 hours. We're not going to do this on a weeknight again. This meal everybody loved. This meal everybody didn't love. Like you're reflecting as you're going, but also you can hold off and reflect at the end of the week. And then you refine. So you've done your reflection, you've looked at what worked, you looked at what didn't, and now you're refining it. Okay, this didn't work. One of the things that I learned more recently, since because I do run two businesses. My husband works full time for another company, and so we are busy people. Like our days are full. It's not like we're not on vacation just sitting around in an RV cooking. Like we're actually working as well. And one of the things that I've reflected on that doesn't work for us is when I write something that's too vague.
Mm.
because if it's too vague and I try to delegate it, he doesn't know what I'm talking about, which means I have to be part of those meal preparations.
Then
And
you're
I coach,
managing, then you're
right.
managing
And
rather than delegating. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
I
so, and I
really,
coach on some nights.
hmm
So that was a refinement that we made, is that in my meal plan, it doesn't just say tacos. It might say roasted veggie tacos, budget friendly cookbook, page 67 or 96 or whatever page it is. And so that was a huge awareness, because it creates more order when I'm able to delegate, when I'm able to say, I'm coaching tonight, you can make this recipe.
nice.
And then
That's
we repeat.
and then we repeat, right? So at the end of the week, you have that review. And I think that is super important because it's really easy to get into a place where you feel you need to reinvent the wheel every week, and that is exhausting. One of the things that I like to tell my clients is to have a page in kind of a permanent area or in their planner, or if they're tracking their food, to go back and review what they've been tracking, because you can go back and be like, and look in a file or look in your planner and be like, oh, I loved this meal. I haven't made it in 4 months. Let's bring this back into rotation. And then it's like culinary Christmas, right? And it's
I love
just
it.
so exciting because we forget, right? We forget. I think between all of the distractions and all of the new ideas being thrown at us, it's really easy to forget the tried and true, right? That is already in the repertoire that we already know how to make.
Absolutely. And that's, those could go on your inspiration list too, right? Your inspiration list
Yeah.
doesn't have to be just what's happened this week. It could be that you have, as you say, a running record of, these are the 5 stars. These are the things we want to rotate in. I'm a huge taco fan. So tacos are on the menu every week. It doesn't matter. The filling might change. The method might change. It might be a taco bowl one week. It might be tacos. My husband loves to make homemade corn tortillas. So he might do
Right.
that one week, but that's not a meal that he's not making homemade corn tortillas on a night when he has a meeting, right? Like, he's making homemade corn tortillas on a day that he has time to do that. And so the
Mhm.
meal plan allows us to have this bird's eye view and say, we have time for homemade tortillas this day. Let's do it this day. Might not fall on a Tuesday. It might not always be Taco Tuesday, but it allows us to kind of look at our whole schedule and really take a bird's eye view of what's going on here. And you also pointed out, if they're tracking their food, like, having a meal plan gives you the bird's eye view to be able to look at, oh, this is what I'm eating this week. Oh, wow. These are the experiences that might provide foods that maybe don't align with the way I want to eat.
Mhm.
How can I be mindful of that? What are some choices I can make? Do I want to eat before? Do I want to review the menu? Like, what's coming up that allows you to have some more control over situations that may make you feel like you don't have control later on.
Right, right. Yeah. Knowing that the kids have soccer practice or baseball or whatever at this time, it's so important to be mindful of that logistical trap really in your schedule, so that way both you and the kids aren't famished and hitting drive through afterwards.
And again, we're not here to say if the drive-through is good or bad. It
Right.
just is. But when you're in control and you can say, we're going to head to the drive-through and this is what we're going to eat, you feel more in control because it's on your meal plan. Whereas if you had this big idea that you were going to make chili, but then you'd run out of time, then it's like, it makes you feel deflated. And so the meal
Yeah.
plan can really make you feel like you're winning.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing the same thing you were doing, you just have an idea that that's what you were going to do. You just have a
Exactly.
plan for it.
And some of those incremental changes, yeah, that can happen. I like that idea of like knowing what you're going to get at the drive-through before you go through the drive-through, especially when you're hangry. For a lot of people, if they have that idea ahead of time, it really helps them to stay more aligned with the values that they have, that they want to be implementing with their dietary habits. If they,
Right.
make that decision before they're in a position to react from biology, really.
Yeah. It also allows you to, like, if you have, I love that you said values and the, your goals. If you have a certain way that you eat, you can look at a bigger picture and say, well, we normally go through the burger fast food, but I could go to something like Chipotle or where I can get foods that more align with my goals
Right.
instead of just going to whatever's closest or going to the default. It's it just gives you some control. And that's why I like meal planning is it gives you a bigger picture and it gives you more. It's almost like this, your meal plan becomes your BFF. That's like you've planned it together and now you're going to run the race together and you have this sense of security and confidence and order in the kitchen that allows you to carry it out and stick with those values.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you and your husband come together and review your schedules and do that planning aspect together?
We do a little bit. I really rely on him for, I swear he has a didactic memory and can remember everything. So I really rely on him for, hey, what was that recipe that we made that was really good that had red beans in it? And he's like, oh, it was this and it's in this cookbook. I'm like, okay, thanks. So
Nice.
he's good. I'm like, how did you remember that? He's like, I don't know. I just do. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to just go with that strength. So he gives me ideas and then I review the calendar. My schedule changes more than his,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the evenings with coaching and clients
Yep.
and things like that. His schedule is pretty much 9 to 5 East Coast time. So sometimes, when we're in mountain time, it's 7 to 3. And so that is a beautiful thing too, because when we finish work, I'm putting that in air quotes, at 3 in our local time, we do have time to make tacos
Right.
or so it's for us, it's really looking at those types of pieces. I also, because I do delegate several meals to him throughout the week, and I say delegate, like we share, that's a responsibility that we share, but some of the preparation of the meals falls on him on days that I'm working. I take into consideration the meals he wants to make. And I ask him, do you want to make a soup? Do you want to make tacos? Do you want to make this? Because I want him to be excited too. And he likes to cook as well, so it's not this, big ordeal. But if
That's
your,
right.
you know, partner loves to grill and you want to delegate some things, you gift them with the things that they enjoy doing. Maybe your kids like to prep veggies, so get some of those kid-friendly, you know, knives or whatever they're like cool knives that kids can use that don't cut fingers, and let them prep veggies and let them be part of the process too, because when you have a meal plan you know what you need prepped, you know what
Right.
ingredients you're going to use. So it's okay if you say, oh, I'm going to have you cut this lettuce while I prep the things that require a sharp knife like a carrot or onion or whatever.
Is there anything that we haven't yet talked about that you wanted to share with our listeners?
So one of the biggest things that I find with a lot of people, and those of you that are listening, you might be thinking, yeah, this is all great. That works for her, but not for me. And I always caution against the things we think, the way, the attitude that we go into it. Because here's the thing. When I started meal planning, it didn't really feel like it worked for me, but I've been doing it for more than 7 years.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been in my RV for 5 years. We did it for a few years in the house. And I found that it works for me. Now, you didn't hear me say, and I do this in our meal plan accountability club. I actually walk people through one of multiple checklists and variations that I have for that step 2 in the actual planning. But I didn't say you need to sit down and you need to do this and this and this in this podcast, because it really comes down to, what do you want? Maybe
Right.
when you look at your schedule, your breakfast is worse than dinner. Maybe getting kids and family out of the house in the morning is the most stressful time for you. So you want to start there. You want to start with planning the things that already feel difficult in your day, and you want to approach this with an open mind that's like, okay, I can try this for a day. I can try this for a week. I can become a meal planner, because if you think you can, you can. If
Hmm.
you think it's hard, if you think it's not going to work for you, then it won't. And that's the mindset of becoming a meal planner, really is this shift into, how can I make this work for me?
Yeah.
I know that the bulk of us are like, well, these are all the reasons it won't work, right? I'm not like her. She doesn't have kids. She's got cats. Like all the reasons why you can't do it. But what are some reasons that you can? Maybe people at work tell you that you're an amazing planner. Maybe everybody turns to you and is like, you are the most amazing planner. Like, so you've got a gift for planning. Try it with meal planning. Maybe you have that big vision. Maybe you're a visionary. Like, look for the reasons why you can do this and not immediately say why you can't.
I love that so much. There is such a powerful shift that happens when we transition from that contracted state of I can't, it's hard to, but wait, how could I? If it was at all possible in this world, how would I and my most healthy self go about doing this, right? And then it's like you give your brain permission to be creative and find those solutions. But the minute we say, "Oh, I can't. Oh, it's hard." It's like that just like it's like pouring it's like pouring bleach on creativity. It just like it wipes it out completely.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's
You're
awesome.
welcome.
So, if you could give listeners maybe one or two action steps that they could implement this week, what are some quick wins that they can start with right away?
So the first thing that I always like to have people start with is, where are you already feeling good and confident with what you're eating? Maybe your lunch, it's just like automatic on repeat, because guess what? You probably have a plan for it. That's why it feels so easy, right? You didn't know you had a meal plan for lunch, but it just works. Maybe it's the same thing with breakfast. Maybe you batch cook a breakfast on a Sunday and that's the plan for the whole week. So look at where you're already winning and dissect it a little bit. Why is this working? Why
Mm.
am I winning here? Why do I feel good here? And then look for, okay, where can I improve? Okay, I can improve at dinner, because every time I walk into the kitchen at 5 o'clock and all these mouths and people are hungry, dogs, everybody's hungry, I immediately feel deflated. Okay, well, let's take a look at some of the easy days this week that you can put a plan in place and do that. I'm saying, like, just look at it right now and say, okay, I bought all the ingredients for this chicken curry. I'm going to plan it for Tuesday night. It fits into my calendar. It fits into the kids' schedule. I have enough time to prepare the chicken. Like, everything can be done. I'm going to plan it and I'm going to see how it feels when I walk into the kitchen on Tuesday with a meal already in mind. I'm not playing cabinet roulette. I'm not playing what's for dinner. My husband and I haven't been texting for an hour about what's for dinner, because that's the biggest, most deflating thing in the world, is when the whole what's for dinner conversation starts. Like, I'm piecing out. Like, what's for dinner? Okay, we're going to get takeout because I don't want to have this conversation. And so just try it. And you don't have to plan a whole week. You could just see how it feels to know what's for dinner on Tuesday night and not be like sucked into this piece. Then do the reflection piece. Why did it work? Why didn't it work? How did you feel about it? Was there a sense of relief walking into the kitchen on Tuesday and seeing what was for dinner? Because, I mean, there are days when I sit at my desk all day long, right? I meal plan the week before. I sit at my desk all day long. I don't actually know what's for dinner. And when I walk into the kitchen and I see something that excites me, I'm like, yes, I can't wait to cook this. Like, I could have had the crappiest day, and now all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, it's good. It's a good meal tonight. I'm excited about tacos or burritos or whatever it is. And it's like, yes, this is the feeling you want to have, that
Yeah.
sense of excitement.
All right, let's take it a meal at a time.
Absolutely.
What's one thing about you that people might find to be a little blasphemous?
Oh, we didn't get into it this one, but I can tend to whip out the F bombs and the sailor talk in moments. I get really excited and I'm like, F this and F that. And I'm like, ooh, I'm a
You're
full
fucking
bottle.
holding out on us is what you're doing.
That's exactly right. I've been behaving.
Didn't the title of this podcast tell you anything?
I mean, I could have just gone right into sailor talk and it would have been okay and nobody would have even been offended.
We need to like just start from scratch. We'll just like throw this out, start over.
I'll be like, Nick, you're effing meal plans. I can't even say it. I can't even bring myself to say it, even though when I'm off camera, I'm like,
Oh, you're not excited enough. That's my fault.
I don't know. I'm like guarded, right? Like I'm on camera, I'm recording.
You're
My
going.
mom might listen to this.
Oh, okay. Well, if your mom's listening, then maybe we should keep it kosher.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of those wonderful tips. I'm super excited to have had this conversation with you. Where can people find you, Kathy?
Okay, awesome. So you can find me at Veg Inspired, but that meal plan template is veginspired.com/meal plan template. So veginspired/meal plan template. You can also find me on Instagram at Veg Inspired. I run my own Instagram. So when you're talking to me. So when you go back and listen to the framework and write your meal plan, send it to me. Send me a message. Let me know how it goes. Let me
Nice.
know what you thought of this podcast. And yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me, Aimee.
My pleasure. Thank you. If you have found some nuggets of wisdom, make sure to subscribe, rate, and share Blasphemous Nutrition with those you care about. As you navigate the labyrinth of health advice out there, remember, health is a journey, not a dietary dictatorship. Stay skeptical, stay daring, and challenge the norms that no longer serve you. If you've got burning questions or want to share your own flavor of rebellion, slide into my DMs. Your stories fuel me, and I love hearing them. Thanks again for tuning into Blasphemous Nutrition. Until next time, this is Aimee signing off, reminding you that truth is nuanced, and any dish can be made better with a little bit of sass. Any and all information shared here is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not to be misconstrued as offering medical advice. Listening to this podcast does not constitute a provider-client relationship. Note, I'm not a doctor nor a nurse, and it is imperative that you utilize your brain and your medical team to make the best decisions for your own health. The use of information on this podcast or materials linked to this podcast are at the user's own risk. No information nor resources provided are intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Be a smart human and do not disregard or postpone obtaining medical advice for any medical condition you may have. Seek the assistance of your healthcare team for any such conditions and always do so before making any changes to your medical, nutrition, or health plan.